I mean, that is definitely the scariest like burden of like, okay, yeah, how am like, what if I couldn't pay them? And so I've learned the hard way to make sure I can, like, to like plan ahead of time. When I don't plan ahead of time, things get scary, and it's like, oh my gosh, we are so tight this month. Like, and sometimes I do. And the thing is, when you're a small business, you don't always get to deliver great news. Like, you try your best, but you're a small business, and you like the expectation of you to be a big business is you can't. And so like my employees' hours shift depending on the time of year.
Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Beauty and the Brand podcast. I'm here with Kyra. She's the founder of Lavender Meadows. It's a postpartum and pregnancy safe skincare line. Kyra is a former pharmacy technician turned skincare founder. She now has served over 5,000 mamas and has been featured in publications like Pioneer Woman and Romper. She's also a C2C and Beauty Brand Mastermind graduate. So welcome, Kyra. I'm so happy to have you on here. This is like a much requested episode. I've had multiple people asking me to have Kyra on the podcast.
You're so sweet. That's so nice. I'm so excited to be here, and it's always good to see you.
So let's get started into your story. Like, tell me a little bit more about the beginning. Like, what was happening in, like, personally with your postpartum skincare struggles or skin struggles, and what made you decide to ultimately create Lavender Meadows?
Yeah. So it was a busy season of life. I was a new mom. I had my son, who I think he was maybe 6 months old at the time. So still very much a baby. And it was an adjustment becoming a mom and lack of sleep. And then I worked full time as a marketing director for old folks home. And so I was constantly on the phone, and like my work would come home with me, and there was just no break really from life. And then my husband, he was super busy with work as well, getting ready for nurse anesthetist school. I just remember being so overwhelmed at the end of the day, and I would sit on my couch finally, and I'd be like, wow, it'd be so nice to just escape everything, like just travel to this lavender meadow. Because growing up, we would visit Canada really often, and we'd go to the mountains there. And I had always been obsessed with like those open meadows. And so I would just like picture myself there. And I had never been like super into skincare, honestly. I struggled with acne growing up, and none of the skincare worked for me, which, I mean, now I can understand why. But I just hated it, and I got on Accutane in the end.
Oh.
But when I had my son, all of the acne just came back. And that just added to my stress and lack of confidence. And so I decided to like look into making natural skincare for myself, because I also wanted it to be nursing friendly. And I was just like so scared of what could work for my skin that would help my acne, but also be safe to use while I was nursing. So I started creating products in my kitchen, and it was interesting because some people, I think, it's funny to see, like when I was in C2C, there were the founders who had everything so like organized, and they wanted to have all the ducks in a row before they started. And then there's me who just like grabbed some stuff off Amazon, like the packaging and the bottles, and threw it together and was like, oh, I'm doing this. Like I made a product that worked for me, so I'm going to sell it.
I love that like is, what makes you so successful as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, whether it's this business or another business. It's the taking of the action. That's where we see, what is it, like the tire meets the road, or like
yeah.
the wheel meets the road. It's when you see, your actions actually lead to something tangible versus just being and staying in the planning phase, which there's nothing to show for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Because it led me to where I am today. So yeah, could I have done more homework? Yes. But it was the fastest way to learn, because I got a lot of negative feedback. I don't know why people ordered my products, because I did my own cheesy pictures, put it on Etsy, and like people ordered it. This is crazy.
How did I not know this?
because I hide it. Just kidding. No one knows about
Now everyone knows.
it. Yeah, true.
That's really inspiring and also amazing. So what happened for that?
So I start getting like, it's heartbreaking, right? Like, here I am thinking my product is so special and being so excited to share it. And then I get this 1-star review on Etsy, and it's like, this lip balm is the worst. And I was like, what? Like, how can this be? But then I messaged her and I was like, why? Why is it the worst? And she, told me why. And I was like, okay, I'm going to send you a different one and tell me what you think. And so I sent her another one. She's like, yeah, I really like that. It'd be great if it like had some kind of like scent to it and so then I was like, I'm going to make another one and tell me what you think. So I kept sending her the lip balms until she actually is the reason that I have the lip balm I have today.
That's
And,
insane.
and she was like, oh, no, I love this one. And so she changed her review. But it's just like, that's how my products happen, is literally like getting the harsh feedback and changing my product all over the years.
Okay. So I have a really important question. And I think people who are listening will maybe have the same question, which is, how did you tolerate the negativity? Because I know that that's like paralyzing for many people, just to hear that no, or to hear that negative feedback. And you were like seeking it out. You're like, this will help me make something better. So how did you is that something that you grew up with, like that mindset, like that trial and error, like kind of go for it mindset? Or is that something that you learned, or tell me more about that?
Yeah. No, wow. You just like went deep all of a sudden. Yeah, it's so true. I guess growing up, like, I was really hard on myself and like I wanted to be the best. And it all started like when I was really young. My dad was like, you can have a horse if you get straight A's. And I went from like not caring about school at all to getting straight A's. And then I was like, this feels good. And like, my dad was really proud of me, and like I could see that in his eyes. And so then like I always just wanted to like earn like the appreciation from other people. And so when I get negative feedback, I'm like, no, you have to like me. Like, there's no other option. And that can be, I think, detrimental maybe, but at the same time, like, I do it to this day. If I get a negative feedback, I find out like why, and then I make it right every single time. And I can't sleep at night, like, knowing that someone, I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes you will have those people that you can't make happy.
Yeah, for sure.
But I tried. So that's their problem at the end of the day. Right. But as long as I'm doing the right thing, I sleep well at the end of the day. And so I just can't rest until somebody's happy. And I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like that's such a motivator. And now that you told me that story, it makes me connect the dots with, I remember this one situation where you were doing a promotion, and for whatever reason, I remember it was a body lotion promotion. And I remember for whatever reason, it wasn't going well. And in the middle of the launch, or in the middle of the promotion, you were like, you just reached out to people being like, hey, why aren't you buying? Yeah. You just reached out to them saying, why aren't you buying? Of course, I'm sure you said it in a nicer way, but that was really cool. Like, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, that does take a certain amount of like motivation, and like, okay, I have to be willing to like get the hard truth. Like, I've worked so hard on this launch, and there's a possibility that it's not panning out, and I might get some feedback that I don't want to hear. And so there is like that slight hesitation in me, but yeah, I mean, I feel like that is just one way to like help yourself succeed.
100%. And I remember, it was like either towards the end of the promotion, or it had already ended, and you went right in and you got all this feedback, and then you retweaked all your messaging and restarted the promotion. Like, you actually extended it a couple days, and then all of a sudden you saved that promotion. Like, that's what I want. I wanted to put a pin in this for everyone who's listening. And I know, Kyra, you've heard me say this 100 times, but it's not over till it's over. And Kyra takes it to the nth degree.
No, every time. But I tuned in my Aggie. Like, I was like, this is what Aggie would do. And that's how I came up with that idea, because I was like, yeah, she would say it's not over till it's over. And it was really nearing the end. But the feedback I got, and I think could be helpful to anybody, and I use it every single time I do a launch, was that they were like, this lotion sounds great, but I don't need a lotion. Like, why would I spend $30 on your lotion? I've got lotion in my cabinet. I got more lotion than I could ever need. And I was like, boom, I got it. I understand now. Like, I can tell you exactly why you need this lotion. Like, this
That
lotion
is
is the last
amazing.
lotion you ever need, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
it's obvious now, but at the time it wasn't.
Of course. And there's something that obviously isn't being communicated the right way, and it's getting at the heart of it. It's like getting to what you said, like going to the heart of it until you figure it out and then fixing it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's move forward to your Etsy story, because you started on Etsy and you actually ultimately ended up ranking number 1 for your category on Etsy, and then consistently would hit 5 figures a month on Etsy. So what were the key factors that made you stand out, on Etsy in a crowded market where there's like hundreds of products on there?
Yeah. First of all, I think I was lucky in a way, but it was also, okay, what happened was I had a friend who had a baby, and I threw together these products that I had come up with because I was like, oh, I hated my postpartum products. Like, these products are what you really need. And I gave it to her and she's like, this is great. You should totally sell this too. And I was like, okay, I'll put it on Etsy. And I did. And that night I had 2 sales, which sounds like, oh, not a big deal, right? No, it is a big deal because this is a picture I took in my living room, and I got 2 orders a week max, not in a day, And so I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. I showed my husband. I was so excited. And I was like, I bet I sell more. I told you this was going to work. And then the next day I sold several more, and I was running out of inventory. So I started like ordering more, and then I would like run out of boxes and run over to Walmart. And like, I was just like trying to like keep things going, and I was getting out of control. I think, like I told you, I knew reviews were crucial. On Etsy, you can't have bad reviews. If you get a bad review, try to change it. It's not over till it's over, change it, get it fixed, because that will stay with you. And in the beginning, it's really important that you get those positive reviews. I also asked people for reviews, and that built my SEO. This was the perfect gift for a new mom,
How did you ask for those reviews?
I messaged them.
Okay, so you messaged them, and every single customer, you would message them asking them for a review.
And I would give them a discount on their next order.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Then you also mentioned SEO. So how did you know what your keywords were?
I asked people what they were searching when they looked for a gift for a new mom.
Amazing. Okay, that is huge.
But the other crucial piece was that this didn't exist at the time. This was a brand new product for its category. And so that's why it took off so quickly. Now there's 100 of them. So it doesn't do this. It's not the same. So you have to create something in a white space on Etsy. Like, you can't just create another body butter because yours is awesome. It would be really hard though. It comes down to price on Etsy sometimes, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's just different because people aren't like, oh, I love this company. I love the story. Like, they don't know you. They're just looking at pictures and reviews. So that have amazing pictures, have a video. You can have a video. You have to have a video actually, because that will come up first. Like, when they're scrolling, the video will just start. And I do just have a really high quality video, like immediately showing the products and like how beautiful it is when it opens. I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast. But
No, it's great. Tell me more about, you mentioned you found a hole in the market, which is fantastic. It was these postpartum kits. And then I remember this happening. I remember we were in C2C, and then also kind of at the beginning of the mastermind. And I remember a bunch of competitors started popping up, creating the same product, and they were pricing it lower, which is what you just shared. How did you navigate that? What were sort of the steps that you took to retain dominance or stay relevant?
So I started offering, like, when I asked for reviews, the discount code wasn't for Etsy, it was for my website. And then on Etsy, you're not allowed to take their emails, right? That's not allowed, but you can ask for the emails. So I have an option, like when they go to order, I just created like a custom option that says, would you like to opt into our business emails? And some people do, like actually half of them opt in. And so then I just captured that person. And so that's how I was able to like hold on to some of my people. And the people who were ordering gift sets continually want to order gift sets. Like especially if it went well and the person loved it, those were the things. And then I think, like I said, I had the credibility. So I just made sure that everything was high quality. The pictures were amazing. And at the end of the day, like the reviews are like, these products actually worked. Like this is not just like these
Absolutely.
products. And so like, yes, there's cute boxes with like hot chocolate or socks or whatever, but like these products help you recover, So I think it's like people want something that's actually going to be used and not just like kind of fun.
Exactly. 100%. I think you more than delivered on that. And you were always and continue to always making improvements to the look, the feel, the way everything is like presented. What would you say are big, like the key mistakes that people who want to get on Etsy or people who are on Etsy, what are some of the mistakes that people make?
That's a really good question, because I was actually just talking to a company the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, you should try this and this and this. And I hesitate to like give that kind of feedback because it's a friend of mine. But I would say, first, like obviously getting reviews, like to like make that the number one priority. And then SEO, like keywords are important, but they're not everything. The pictures are everything. If it doesn't look like they had a sign, and I guess same thing with skincare, if like you can make it look aesthetic in some way, like pose it in a bathroom, like people want to see it in real life because they're there for like art and like homey feel and like vibey, like I don't know, they just love it. And so if you can bring like that real life aesthetic aspect into it, and it's not just simple. I don't sell very many skincare products on there. So it's the gifts. If you can turn your product into a gift, then that is huge. A lot of people get on for gifts. So if you've got skincare, not just a self-care box, but like go beyond that. Like what problem are you solving? Like what doesn't exist yet? And, that's something I'm always racking my brain about, like, what problem can I solve to do this again, to repeat this, know?
Yeah, it's like to keep that, like keep filling that gap, especially on Etsy platform. So you mentioned, Kyra, that you would, once people started to kind of replicate or copycat, your brand, your concept, your kits, you started to drive that traffic to your website. So Etsy was your main revenue stream, but when then you started to make that shift to your website, you actually discovered that you had two different customer segments. How did you figure that one out?
That was it was such a frustrating thing to me, because I remember I was in CDC and we were trying to figure out like my customer and everything. And it was like, I had these two different businesses that were running. The people who liked skincare just were friends of friends and like people who met me at farmers markets and like liked the products, but there wasn't anything like differentiating myself from other natural skincare. It was just natural skincare, that had unique ingredients or whatever. But when I was talking to an esthetician she's really cool. She like travels in an RV and like does skincare tutorials on the way and stuff. And we started talking with that.
That's cool.
It is really cool. Yeah, she's way cool. Beauty Roams, that's her page. But she and I used to talk a lot, and I was like, maybe I should try like some kind of like the nutritional aspect. Like I was all over the place. And she was like, no, I think you have things going with like the pregnancy postpartum. Why don't you just do pregnancy safe skincare? And I was like, oh, yeah, duh. She's like, are those pregnancy safe? And I was like, yeah, they are. And she's like, well, I have clients ask me that question all the time. Like, is products can I use because I'm pregnant? And so I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then when I came back to CDC, it was like, okay, how do we, now that we have this information, like, how are we going to build this brand and like merge these two businesses into one, and like the messaging and everything? And it just came together really beautiful. So, it was a process, but
I remember it was a little bit of a process. And we were pulling the data and sifting through all the numbers from Etsy and sifting the data from DTC from your website, and then reaching out to different customers and then surveying and, individual personalized outreach, and ultimately landed on, hey, we have these two different segments, one of them being mothers actually buying for themselves, and then Etsy being the gift givers. So how did that insight, knowing that, oh, I have these two different categories of buyers, how did that ultimately change your strategy, like your sales strategy going forward?
So I segment my emails, for promotions. On my website, I collect that data of like, there's a survey when they get their discount code. Are you buying for yourself? Or are you buying for a mom? And so that automatically like segments them. And so I have, some of that information. And so that's helpful, definitely, when it comes down to like how I'm selling things. But they have started to merge into one. It's funny because now that the people buying the postpartum care packages are being introduced to the products, now they're starting to buy the skincare, whether they're pregnant or not. And so they have started to very much like mesh and just become the brand. And so it's just come naturally over time.
I love that so much. So I love it. This is so apropos of what we just had an email marketing session in C2C yesterday, and it was all about segmentation. So this is so timely. Tell me, what was some of that key messaging and branding changes that you made to attract and retain customers on your site?
Visitors who came to my site and to get them to order.
Mm-hmm. Or like some of the changes that you made, knowing that, oh, we actually, at the time, we had these mothers who got these kits, right? And now they're buying the products for themselves. What were some of the key messaging and messaging changes you had to make from like Etsy being all gift giving to the website being more focused on retaining those customers?
Well, the pain points were completely different. So the pain points of the gift giver is like, is she going to use this? Like, are the products useful? Is it unique? Like, is someone else going to gift this? Like, how do I know that this is the perfect gift? Whereas the customer is dealing with skin pain points, like, whether it's hormonal acne or it's postpartum issues like a perineal spray or stretch marks, like those kind of things, boob balm, cracked nipples, like all that kind of stuff is very different than the gift giver. So like the pain points are completely different. So that's why it was important to differentiate.
And then, part of it was creating your own category, which was this postpartum, pregnancy and postpartum safe category, as well as these Mother Nature's maternal actives. What about owning your category? What about owning your own category do you feel resonated with your customers? And I know we talked a lot about this and wanting to make sure that mother felt very seen.
Can you give me a little bit more? Sorry.
So tell me more about like when you rebranded.
Okay.
On focusing in on this pregnancy safe and postpartum category, and really focusing in on maternal actives and focusing on, making the mother not an afterthought, right? How did that rebranding affect ultimately like your conversion rates, your repeat purchases, and overall brand loyalty?
It was huge. It was like you're focusing on the customer instead of, I think my messaging was all over the place, but when I was able to like focus it on a specific person, I was able to like meet her where she was at and in the struggles of new motherhood, like young motherhood, and like knowing exactly what she was going through. Like trying to think. So instances of like motherhood where you don't get a lot of time to yourself. It's like you kind of feel some guilt for spending time on yourself or spending money on yourself. And so just reminding moms that no, that's okay. That's actually essential. Your well-being is number one priority to, taking care of your family. And so it's okay to invest in yourself and take time for yourself and to buy these products because they're going to make you feel good. And that's not something like to take lightly. That's not something that's just like when there's extra time or when I get to it. It has to be a priority. And so, it was a game changer for sure. Like being able to connect with that mother right where she's at.
And when you made that shift, did you see your sales and conversions increase?
Yeah, absolutely. Huge, huge. I mean, we were going from like just sprinkle of sales to consistent sales and like people returning customers, loyal customers, and uh, just like everything just went up from there. And like, though it's funny now because the website sometimes beats Etsy now. So it's,
Awesome.
yeah, it is really interesting. I never thought that would happen. And I remember we were like, should we lean into this postpartum care package and just put all the focus in that? Or should we like, we were trying to figure out what would be the best thing because sometimes it's like, oh, you shouldn't waste time on like you focus on the number one thing. But I just like we felt it like this. No, this is they go together and like it's gonna work out because people are buying them and like we did have return customers. And I was like, okay, so how can we take what's working and like make it bigger or whatever?
100%. No, that makes total sense because I remember it was constantly challenging the notion that like, yes, the postpartum kit was the number one bestseller, but also it was us looking at the numbers, seeing that that wasn't actually the bestseller on the site. And then trying to figure out why was that the case? And then from there, being able to be like, okay, we need to really shift the messaging. Like we have two different audiences here. And then, yeah, being able to kind of take it from there. Tell me more about, what ultimately, like, what are some of the things, activities, or what were some of the steps that you took to retain, like, once you figured that out, what were some of the steps that you took to retain? So you turned a one-time gift purchase audience into a repeat buying community. Mm-hmm. What did you do? Like, what are some of the steps that you took to make that transition beyond just the messaging? I know you updated the website, you updated your product pages. Were there other things that you were doing with like email and social? And you've always been so good about being on Instagram and creating video. Were there some shifts that you made from there?
Yeah, I mean, I was really engaged on Instagram and I was doing a lot on there. So it's funny because if you look at the reviews on my website, a lot of them say like, I just love Kyra. And like, like they got to know me as a person because they were like part of my life. And so that helped a lot. Like they were very much connected to like my day to day and like motherhood, like they were in it with me. And so we had that great connection. Ultimately, like, that it was so cool, but like not sustainable through every stage of my life. Like maybe when my kids are older, I could get back into that. We'll see. But it became like very much a part of my life that it was like, is this worth it? Because it was taking away from time with my family and stuff. So it's definitely a balancing act there, but it did help me. So it's hard to say.
I like that you mentioned that. What I believe is that it was the right thing at that time, and it catapulted your business to a certain revenue level. And then at that point you realize, okay, I can't keep doing that. And I'm grateful that it led us to this growth. And now I need to find a new solution to replace me as the only face of the brand. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, exactly. So then from that point, once I had my audience, it was very much email marketing has to always be huge for us. Like that is how we stay in touch with our customers. So we send out like a weekly email and we do what we call like a lavender letter. And I share a story, like a personal story. And then we send out like a few promotional emails as well. So just like balancing that. And besides email, I do a lot of in-person events. And so
Tell me more.
That has been new. That has been like pushed me outside of my comfort zone. But social media did that to me in the beginning. Like being on video was very uncomfortable to me. And so is doing things in person. But then I end up loving it. So because the reward is so sweet, like you get to know people and they love you. They end up loving your product. And like, it's just it's cool to see in person, not just online.
Mm-hmm.
So girls' nights, like as awkward as that might be, like getting people together to sell your products to, like that's very MLM or I don't know, but it actually works like that. Those relationships are really important. and friends invite their friends, and you just like do it authentically. You have a fun time, and then you're like, let's do a spa night. Like, and they just try the products, and I don't ever like push a sale on them. They just buy them. Like, they just want them after they try them.
So take me through this a little bit more. Where are you hosting these events and how long are they?
Okay, this actually goes back to like the MLM thing. So recently I had this, she was my realtor, and she knew that I was buying this house for the property for the lab, because we have our own lab here where we manufacture. She knew I wanted the farm and I wanted to grow flowers and lavender and stuff. And she was like, I guess didn't really try. I don't know. She was like, okay, cool. You make products, whatever. Well, she asked me if she could host her garden club here. And I was like, okay, that's more older women. Like, that's not exactly my, not the people I'm targeting. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to say yes. And I did. And it was a really beautiful event. And yes, they all bought the skincare, but they led to so many connections. And like, they bought them for their daughters too, who were the ones in my like category.
Right.
And so it spiraled in the community. And then my realtor tried the products and she was like, oh my gosh, these actually work. That's so crazy. She's like, I've been trying to find products that would help my acne for so long. And these are the first thing that like are actually helping me. And so she was super excited about it. And she goes like all in on things that she loves. And so she was like, I have so many groups. Like, I have book club, and we have like our real estate group, and like, you're just going to come, you're going to bring your products and tell them what you told us. And, and so I was like, okay. And she's like, I'll even pay you to do parties and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's not where I'm headed. But no, yeah. But no, it's like worked out really good actually. And it's the easiest way. Like, you can get, 10 customers over 1 hour, couple hours, so not that we're looking at it transactionally, but I'm just saying it's a good use of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you sell tickets to these events, or are they unpaid?
No, it's nothing formal. It's so for the real estate group, she just said, oh my gosh, I have the skincare I love. Do you ladies want to have a girls' night and do some skincare? And they all were like, yeah. So it really was just like asking your friend, like, hey, do you have any groups or like friends that would be like, I know you love the products. Like, do you know anybody else who would be interested? Like, could we do like, I'll host a girls' night for you. Like, I'll bring the food and like the spa night. And like, it's just a fun time. Like, I'm just bringing it to you. And I'm not selling anything. Like, there's nothing expected from it. I just talk about like ingredients and like how to care for your skin, like very much like giving,
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, I had like my mini kits, like my mini sets. And I was like, oh, if you guys want to, well, because they were like, we want the products. And I was like, oh, perfect. I brought mini kits so that you can, try out the set for yourself, and then you can get the bigger ones,
So you sell those mini kits.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. And it's so interesting because I was doing an episode with, I don't know if you ever met Maya in our community, but what she does is she partners with different spas and different locations in our community and does facial massage. So she starts with like 5 minutes of breath work, and then she does like a whole like facial massage and leaves them with like little samples. And she sells out. She does charge for those sessions, and then not only does she charge for those sessions, but she also does sell like products. Everyone wants to buy the products in the end, similarly to you. And I think there's something here. I think people want more experiences. They want more connection. They want to be with people in real life and not like the fake, like, social media culture that's been propagated.
Yeah, I think we're exhausted from that. Like, that's video's just not been performing the same, and it's come to the point where it's not worth it for me to spend 3 hours on a reel that is not going to give me any sales. Like, it's great for launches. Like, if there's something specific that I'm like trying to like really engage my audience with, but to just do that consistently for no reason, It doesn't make any sense. It's more of like, what's it called when you like, it makes you feel good because of how many views you got? It's like, it's kind of like
Oh, yeah, like a vanity
a
metric.
vanity mark. Yeah, that's really what it was turning into. And it was hurting my confidence because I was like, my views are going down, you know?
Yeah.
Then I think about when I'm flipping through Instagram, even when I see something I like, I'm so overstimulated from like content. And I'm already flipping that I'm like, oh, I'll have to check that out later. Like, which is good. You need the touch points, but it's really crowded and there's a lot going on. So in person is just so much easier.
Wow. So how many of these do you do like a month?
I just do, so well, I think we've just tried to do like 2 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Just did one. Okay, this is the craziest thing. We have this local, she's a permanent jewelry and she opened a shop and she's the sweetest lady. But I was like, wow, this is a really small town to open like a shop for your permanent jewelry. Like, good kudos to you, like go for it. But she's like, well, I'm gonna have all these local business owners in here and I want you to be in here. She met me at a market. And I was like, oh, sure, whatever, like thinking nothing would come out of it because like it's a really slow store. Like we're on like a busy road. Like it's just a random place.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, like products are selling like crazy there. I don't know what is happening, but like she hosts these parties and we've done a couple. We've done a mom and daughter skincare night because these moms' daughters now who are even like 8 and 9 are using skincare. And these products, are totally safe for them. So it's like win-win. So
Yeah,
I just like did them
absolutely.
all their daughter, like their kids are dying to know more about skincare and love it. So we did that recently. And then we did just a facial night. Like we did facials and it was so fun. And we did that in her store. So if you're working with any businesses and like retailers, coordinating events with them is great too, because then you have a place to do it. Because we did like the garden club one in our barn, which was really cool. It took a ton of work, but
once you do it once, like it's all set up for the next ones that
exactly,
you do.
yeah,
So.
exactly. So once it warms up, like it would be so like I want to do them again in the future, and hopefully with lots of lavender, like a lavender field.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I love this so much because I can hear your excitement in Shameless. And I remember, when we were chatting, even I think last year, and you were like, and even like, you were pregnant with your second child during the mastermind. And I think the issue of constantly being on camera started there. And I just want to mention this to the audience. Like Kyra was and is insanely consistent on social. And she was on video like every day, like without break. And then I think like during maternity leave, we were figuring out a strategy to like repurpose content, batch stuff in advance. But I think that kind of planted that seed of like, well, this might not be sustainable, right? So I wanted to circle back to that because talk me through, when you really hit a wall with social and doing video, and then what did you do next?
Okay, so yeah, I was in the mastermind and I was pregnant and I get so sick and I had forgotten because my kids are gapped out a bit, a 5-year gap. And I was moving and oh my goodness, I had no energy and like I was just showing up to life, like I was not really there. And I remember telling you guys, like, what am I going to do? This is how I run my business. Like, I didn't see how any other way could work. I almost felt like I had to give up. Like, my business was over. And then I started hiring on help. So I hired at first, it was like this social media lady who had started kind of like a company for social media. Like, it was a small company. And when it was fine in the beginning. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think this is, what I want to keep going with. It helped me, got me through Mother's Day, but I think I want to go in a different direction. And then I hired a VA and I was like, okay, can you take all of like my past videos and content and can you reuse it and turn it into the videos? And then Oh, and also my sister, I had her help me for a while too. She would edit the videos because she was, just already knew like what people liked and stuff. And she was good at that. So she'd just be like, hey, just send me a quick video real quick of this. And then she would put the idea and the content together. So whether it's, somebody you hire, then they can help you with that. And it doesn't have to be a big agency,
Mm-hmm.
because
Absolutely.
I still put the marketing plan together and I could do that from my laptop.
Right.
Or from my phone. But it was when it came down to like shooting, that was just so much energy. It just like burned me out to do content. And so then like looking forward, I started having like narrowing it down, like, okay, what 4 videos am I going to do this month? And then what are the carousels that are going to supplement between? And then I even have like stepped that back a little bit. I'm like, okay, are these carousels producing sales? Like, why am I spending money on them if they're not producing sales? So I'm feeling that out. And I'm seeing like, what if I just created 4 really high quality, like connection videos of like touching in, and not, when I'm in a launch, adding more to those. But like, what if I just like weekly had like a really kind of like a podcast, like something like that's longer and like more thought out. And so I think I might be doing that, but I will share like what I think is going to be the way social media goes. And I think it's such a game changer. And if you guys copy me, whatever, because we're all in this together. But like I started last quarter doing a docu-series on following 3 different moms and their journey throughout pregnancy and postpartum. And they use all the products and they talk about it, and they talk about like the hard times and the great times and, their recovery and everything. And it's really powerful, but I've been editing them forever. It's taking forever. But I want to go in that direction. Like,
That's
I
fun.
really see reality TV and series and like that kind of content performing really well.
100%.
Maybe they don't need me anymore. Maybe we just like head in another direction and like let other people take on the content creation and let
Absolutely.
them their journey.
Absolutely. It's like what we're doing right here. It's like so meta because
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't always want to be on camera.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's creating, I've created years and years of content just like you. And here I am interviewing you and you're doing all the talking.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is like, okay, I've created it. So now like, how can I, make this work for me? And like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So talk to me, since we're talking about shifts and kind of shifting into that CEO role. Really what it is how do we shift this from a me-centric business to a we-centric business, right? And so, talk to me about building team. And I know that you've sort of had your ups and downs with hiring. I also remember, just to go totally back, when we started working together in C2C, if I remember correctly, you already had a team member doing fulfillment for you, which I really appreciated because I can't even, I can't even tell you how many people are still working on outsourcing that piece, right? And it's such an important piece to outsource. So talk to me about that first hire and why you pulled the trigger pretty early.
Yeah. Well, things were getting out of control. We moved to Tennessee and I had, inventory all over my house. Like my master bedroom, it was pretty big, but there's just boxes. And then our garage was chock full. Like we were talking about, like I was mass producing like a lot of product. But guess who was doing it? Me. I was doing it. It was actually insane. And I would stay up all night making lotion. And I was squeezing it out of what are those called? The plastic. So embarrassing. And so my husband's like, no, we can't do this. He's like, we got to be efficient here. Like, if you're going in on this, like, we got to buy proper equipment and do all the things. So, like, we had sectioned the house of like, where's the business going to be? We bought proper equipment. And I was still trying to do it all because there's this fear that, like, when you're a small business owner, you don't have it all together. It's like, okay, if I hire someone, what if they just end up sitting around because like they don't know the next step, or like I'm going to end up having to be super involved. It's not worth it. I could just do it faster myself. And like there's envelopes in my master bedroom. Like, how awkward is that? Like, they're going to go walk into my master bedroom and get the envelopes, So it really is hard when you're in that stage. And it wasn't until my parents came to visit, which bless their heart, they sleep in the on a blow up mattress in the lab. And, they were like, Kyra, it's time for an intervention. You're not doing this by yourself anymore. This is crazy.
Oh my
And we went to lunch, and there was this cute waitress. This is like teenager. And my dad was like, hey, are you looking for a job? And I was like, oh, hey. I was like, yeah, I'm hiring. And she's like, yeah, I would love that. It sounds really cool. I told her about my business, and she gave me her number, and she started work the next week. And
I love this.
literally like take that weight off. Oh, you're going to make me cry.
Yeah, no, I just love it so much.
She started packing the postpartum care packages for me, and she would label all the products, and like I was still scared to like have her do shipping orders or like making the products, but she had a friend who she then invited to come work for me. It's always the friend. It's not the person looking for the job. It's the friend who doesn't need it. And she was amazing. I had her for the next couple of years, and she took over making the products, shipping. Like she
amazing. Would you say she was the best hire you've made so far? And what did it feel like?
Best hire at that time, because like I didn't want. It would have been fine to have an adult coming in my house and like, but it felt very intimidating. And this was a great step for me. She was OCD. She was so detail oriented, like almost to a point of like annoying. But no, it was exactly what we needed, because she knew how I wanted everything, and she made sure it was perfect. And like I could trust her, like I would leave, go out of town, and everything would get done. And she could go into my master bedroom and get the envelope. She didn't care, like it was totally fine. And she was just like, yeah, she knew like exactly what I needed and stuff. So it was perfect. No, I have really great hires right now. So it gets better and better, and they're adults, and there is a step up like between hiring a teenager and hiring an adult who's very much capable. So it's nice.
When you hire somebody to help you in your business and like Etsy shuts down your page or something happens, that can be a fear of like, how am I going to pay these people that I've hired, right? Do you ever feel like, have you felt that way?
Yeah. I mean, that is definitely the scariest like burden of like, okay, yeah, how I am like, what if I couldn't pay them? And so I've learned the hard way to make sure I can, like to like plan ahead of time. When I don't plan ahead of time, things get scary, and it's like, oh my gosh, we are so tight this month. Like, and sometimes I do. And the thing is, when you're a small business, you don't always get to deliver great news. Like you try your best, but you're a small business, and you like the expectation of you to be a big business is you can't. And so like my employees' hours shift depending on the time of year. So like I tell them, you can have like, it's such a minimal amount of hours. Like I started one of them on 6 hours a week, and like, that's what I knew I could do. But then when there were more hours available, she liked it. She took the more hours. And, so it's just, you have to be okay with that whole, like being a leader, like having those boundaries and being able to like plan ahead, but also be okay with not always making everybody happy all the time. And it's hard. Like, your team's going to change. Sometimes you hoped this thing would work out and it doesn't, and you have to go in a different direction. That doesn't mean your business failed and you should quit. Cause I think that all the time. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm down to $3 this month. Well, that didn't work out. Okay. But I spent a lot of money in places that didn't work out. So now next month, we're going to take all that pressure off.
Exactly.
Expense is gone. Now let's just move forward from there. And so it's like, oh, okay, it is okay. Like we're going to be okay again. So yeah,
I love that you shared that. I think there's two things that I'm hearing and I can also resonate with, which is that you make certain investments and there's certain times that are dips in the business and it feels scary, but it's like having having the foresight to know that with every investment, whether it's a good investment or a bad investment, there's a way out of that typically. There's a way forward from that. And, that investment might actually pay off, but it won't pay off maybe immediately. It might be 6 months from now. And I remember even recently learning about that and seeing like a graph, like a curve. And once I saw the curve, I was like, all right, I get it. I remember I'm part of this community called Entrepreneurial Organization. And I was at a learning day, and I remember talking about, our team was growing and our team was getting larger. And they showed me this graph of like the investment on team and then how much of a dip it goes into, and then how it like in the period of time where it goes back up. And I was like, oh, okay.
That is so cool.
It was such a relief to know, oh, this is the norm. Like, having that data, those data points of like, this is what happens when you grow your team from this size to this size, or whatever that may be. It was just really, really nice to be able to see. And I think the other thing too was there was another thought that I had as you were chatting about, the team and hiring and, and investing in them, is that the flexibility, right? There's something to be said about seasonal investments as well. And I'm always reminding people, like, you don't, to your point, like, you don't have to hire somebody full time. Like, start small. That's fine. Also, you could hire like even publicists, or you can hire agencies or contractors for, seasonally. Like we do that with, for example, we'll hire our ads agency during our launches, but then they know like after the launch is over, we put a pause and then we come back.
It's so true. You don't see it like that. I was never able to put that together until recently.
Yep. It can be seasonal, and
they don't always give you that option either. So you have to know it for yourself and seek it out.
And you have to ask for it, and you have to find the right partner that is willing to do that. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's like, oh, let's work together for a month or two, because that's not what I'm saying. Because that's very hard for any contractor or agency to, they're just learning in the first month or two.
Right. The expectations have to be.
But it can be like a 6-month thing or a 4-month thing where that's enough time for their work to pay off on both ends.
Yeah.
So something to consider. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about what do you see for Lavender Meadows in the next, 3 to 5 years? What's coming up?
I am taking things at my pace. And I think I've my whole life set like these expectations for myself. And so it's not like someone was necessarily controlling the pace. I was controlling it. But I had to just like reset and realize that what do I actually want to get out of this? And I had to think about like, why am I doing it? And of course, there's the reason of like, oh, we're making people's lives better. Yeah, obviously. But like, why am I doing it? And like, what is in it for me? Like, why am I working so hard? And just remembering, I realized that I like selfishly, I really enjoy hearing people talk about my products, and like, I like people praising me. Like I seek that, and that is probably human and natural, but it's like, okay, now that I know that, like it almost like helped me keep the business in perspective a little bit. And I don't know, you keep this in or take this out. But when I was talking to my therapist, which I started this year, and that is a game changer too. I told her, I was like, I want to be more confident in my business. And I want to figure some things out. And I want to go to the next level, which I ended up learning something different, But she had me describe how I felt about my business. And I was like, it controls my life. Like it's consumed. And then I was like, but I love it so much. And she was like, you like just perfectly described, what is it called? Dang it.
An abusive relationship?
Yeah, essentially an abusive relationship. And I was like, oh my gosh, I started laughing so hard because I was like, I have never seen it in that light, but you were so right. Like, anyway. And so I said, what do I do? Like, do I have to break up? And she said, no. She's like, you can, that's option 1. But option 2 is like forming like, an emotional detachment, like taking out the emotion from it so much. Like, it was like too much a part of my life. It needs to be an extension, not like who I am. My identity is not in this business. And so I'm like working on separating that a bit and building those boundaries. And that has, which you would think would form like a separation, it's like made me more excited about my business. And like, if it doesn't work out, whatever. But now I have like these like ideas are sparking because the pressure is off of it.
Yes,
So
it's the pressure. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. More creativity. So anyway, the future of Lavender Meadows is me enjoying my business, connecting with my customers, doing in-person events where I can like meet moms where they're at and just like build genuine friendships. And this Mom Diary series I'm really excited about should be launching very soon.
So fun.
Yeah, just all the good stuff.
I love it so much. And I love this for you and how this is evolving. And last question, quick question. One piece of advice you would give either your former self before you started this business or someone else who's listening who might be thinking of starting a business, this type of business.
Oh my goodness, that is such a hard question. I guess just what I said last, that like you don't have anything to prove. Like you're already, like I already have innate value and my business does not define me, whether it succeeds or fails. It's not the end of the world. It's just an opportunity and it's something that should excite me and just slowing down. I mean, I am grateful. Like things happen for a reason, right? And like it supported us through when my husband was in school. It was amazing. But after that, like constantly being like, oh my gosh, I'm failing from here on out because Etsy's not performing the same as it used to. And like constantly feeling that is too much. And so I wish I would have just like been able to keep it more in perspective and like why I'm doing this,
I love that so much. I think it's so important. I get caught up in that too, of connecting too much of my being or my essence with the business. And it's like resetting boundaries, resetting boundaries and borders, clear borders and boundaries between you, the person, and, the business, and you and the business are two separate entities. And yeah, I love that. I think that is very, very important takeaway. And I think most people fall into that trap at some point as entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that you say that, I believe it then. Yeah. The people you wouldn't expect, like we all go through it then.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, how can people find you and Lavender Meadows, and what's your favorite product?
You can find me at lavendermeadowsco.com and Instagram, Lavender Meadows Co, TikTok, Pinterest, all the things. And then my favorite product, that's so hard to ask a founder that because I use them all like every day. But I really feel like our cleanser is revolutionary. And like part of me wants to just like make that its own business because it's unlike any other cleanser out there. Like it uses a surfactant that is nobody in their right mind would ever use because it's so finicky and hard to work with. And it takes us days to create the cleanser, like drop by drop. You have to add the oil into the surfactant and at a high speed. We used to do that by hand. Now we have machines, but it doesn't dry out your skin. And like I attribute my skin health over the years to that, and it saved my skin. So.
Okay, I'm going to buy that. Like,
I'd send you some.
I have dry skin. I've always had dry skin, and I find that most cleansers for me are stripping. Like stripping.
No, this one's not, and it removes makeup. It's insane.
Oh,
like I just love it.
I need to buy it.
It's crazy. I'll send it to you.
Wow. Okay, thank you, Kyra. This was such an amazing interview. I knew it would be, and it was so great having you on here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for listening. If you love this interview, please leave us a review. Every review matters, and we appreciate them tremendously. And I'll see you all in the next episode of the Beauty and the Brand podcast. Bye, everyone.